Alright, welcome back to the AoE2 Admirals League. We got Vinchester in the purple trunks once again, now on the Cumans. He's up against Barles' Gojras, so one of the new Indian factions versus another faction that was released not so recently, but still one of the civs that wasn't part of the original Age of Kings or Age of Conquerors civs. Oh, a bit of a mistake there for Vinchester, killing one of his own pigs further away from the town centre, so he's even going to just not gather from that in the meantime. I think there's a misclick there from him. Well, definitely a misclick. I think he just accidentally clicked a move command on it rather than elsewhere. So he's definitely going to opt to go for the hunting, considering on a map like this got access to relatively close deer, so trying to actually rally these under the town centre extremely easy. And lower elo players might even just opt to outright distance gather them. Like if you put the mill on this side, you could honestly just distance gather that if you're at lower elo. It doesn't matter. But at this level of the game, you know, Vinchester, even small mistake there, he's not even going to bother gathering from anything except the huntables. So, one of the newish civs, but definitely not the newest. Got the Cumans. Additional town centre you can make. I think these guys are an early DE civ. They were one of the first civs released with AoE2 DE. From memory, I don't think they were a HD civ. But yeah, my memory of the AoE2 civ releases is a little bit foggy. But I can definitely tell you just about all the AoK and AoC ones. So yeah, we've got Cumans. Second town centre is possible on them. So a nice civ for AoEO players to get into. Got Siege Workshop and Battering Ram also available in Feudal. Earlier Cap Ram. Cheaper ranges and stables, which sounds great, but at the same time, this means you get a marginally faster defensive or attacking first military production facility out. Cavalry being faster in each age is definitely nice for raiding and for disengaging and for also trying to run down enemy raiding cavalry. Nice cavalry archer unique unit and access to some good techs for your ranged. I mean, sorry, for your cav archers and for your light cav. Stronger palisades too, so that's also very handy considering he's going to start throwing them down quite early here. So Barles here in game 2, opting for Gojras, so one of the newest civs considering it was released with the 4 Indian civ release. Can't remember what it was actually officially called. But yeah, there's some pretty ballin' civs from the subcontinent in that. And we've got bonus forage bushes here. It's always handy. It looks like he's already gathered from them. He's now just finishing off his hunting. And you can actually put all your herdables straight into the mill to garrison and generate food, which I think is about 20-ish a minute for each in there. Pretty big by the end of the game, considering he's got 2 sheep and 3 pigs in there. So he would have gathered from, what, 1 pig and from those starting berry bushes to be able to do that. So I think that's really the main benefit of having those 2 forage bushes. You know, they effectively replace having to kill 2 or even 3 of the herdables. So you can also just get more food over the course of the game because you just got this slow generating tick of food. So you've also got bonus damage on mounted archers. Oh, sorry, mounted units in general. And I think that actually is just bonus damage against their actual unit counter type. So, you know, skirmishers countering ranged or camels countering cavalry, sorry. So a couple of nice unique units, because you've actually got access to chakram throwers and Travamsa riders. Cheaper military units in terms of their food costs. I suppose that doesn't really benefit your ranged, but it benefits your melee, both cavalry and infantry. Bonus armor on camel riders as well. So they're especially good against other cavalry and against well, they're not so shit against spearmen, the spearman line for lack of a better word. Because yeah, I mean, camels shouldn't win fights against spears, and I don't think even with that bonus that they will, but it just means that it's less cost inefficient to take small engagements against them, while you've also got ranged units beating down on them. And yeah, on top of that, it should make fights against knights, the knight line, even more decisive. I think it actually benefits camel scouts. If we just go to the tech tree quickly. Ah yeah, camel scouts do upgrade to camel riders, sorry. So I think it could benefit them potentially, but there's no reason you're going to sit on camel scouts all game. Because I can imagine Frontier Guards is going to be a castle tech from either Imp or Castle, and it is from Imp, so there's no reason why you'd be sitting on camel scouts while also taking other Imperial techs to benefit them. So Vinchester's already able to make use of that Cuman town centre, which I believe does actually build slower in Feudal Age than it does in Castle Age. So it's not as though it's as easy to get as the second town centre in your Castle Age. I mean, obviously it kicks in earlier, but in terms of the amount of build time you've got to commit to it, it's a lot higher, and it pulls you off other resources to sort of offset the fact that you're going to end up potentially 15 villages ahead of your opponent. So Barles is taking his age up now, and he'll be looking to go for a second town centre as quickly as possible, considering he's up against Cumans, which are a wonderful boom sieve, because they get this age 2 town centre, and you know, Vinchester can save up and get an age 3 town centre. Sorry, a third town centre in the Castle Age, and fit it in really, really early, and also reap the benefit of actually having a lot of that villager disparity already. Because you commit to 3 town centre from 1 town centre, and you think, oh great, I'm really going to start propelling forward on economy, but you've actually, you know, you're spending another 100 food every villager cycle, and you haven't yet actually hit the villager pop to make that easy to do while also being able to spend on other things. Like, once Barles has got these out, he's going to be pumping villages, but it's going to be a slow trickle to actually add, you know, oh, he's already got the blacksmith, but actually add barracks, range, stables, save up for a castle, blah blah blah. Whereas Vinchester, you know, once he hits Castle Age here, he'll be able to show third town centre, castle, military buildings all out at once, push. Because he's already at 50 Vil Pop, 2 town centre, taking his Castle Age upgrade now. Barles in the meanwhile, up a town centre on him, but he's behind by 18 villager pop, so the beauty of Barles aging up quicker, though, and he's going to take full advantage of this, is try and get as many relics as he can. Even on the Civ with no bonuses to monks at all, or relic gold generation or anything like that. He's also invested in Camel. No, he hasn't had to invest in Camel Rider, he's gotten the upgrade for free. That's cool. Coolio. Cool beans. I didn't think the AoE2 engine was capable of cool shit like that. Nah, just kidding, AoE2 is pretty good. I think in AOM, when you hit Classical Age from the first stage in that, you actually gain damage on your scouts as well, so maybe the technology has always been around. But yeah, Vinchester going Castle Age. Defensive castle already. Not far off what he needs for a third town centre here. So he'll be able to play quite defensively here. Barles is still trailing by 5 villages. Might only probably be about 2, if not dead even by the time Vinchester does commit to a third town centre here. So Barles is starting to add military production here. Vinchester's already able to do it pretty much as soon as he's aged up and gone for a castle. Just the only thing that's really lagging here is a third town centre, but considering how much stone he's mining, I think he's just going to try and castle drop Barles once again. Because at the moment it doesn't... He's maybe thinking, oh, if I can get this in front of these golds, there's not really much he can do about that. He's already sort of shown he doesn't want to have to play this weird game of having to try and build a town centre behind enemy lines in order to actually gather gold. So I won't really spoil last game, but I will spoil last game. It's best of 5. Vinchester basically castle dropped Barles after pushing into him all game on fish and fish. So I think that he's pretty much looking to do the same sort of strategy. And Barles is committing to a 4th town centre here, so he's already started to pull ahead on villages, even while still on 3, because Vinchester, while he's gathering this stone for another castle, it's meaning that he's not going to be as quick on the draw with his 3rd town centre. So his vill count's going to start slipping, but Vinchester's only going for a fairly defensive, it's still a favourable position here because he's taking, you know, initiative and taking control of all the central gold, and there's not really much Barles can really do here unless he gets Trebs and takes it out. He's still actually giving Barles the opportunity to get on these golds somewhat safely. Quite large gold piles too, or your gold at home actually isn't all that significant. It's only 4 tiles worth. And that's pretty much it for all your gold at home, I think. Except for another 3 tile. So it's 2 small gold mines. Oftentimes you'll have 2 small gold mines and a large gold mine on maps. Where there isn't such a large clump of gold, you know, somewhere in the map, like out in the middle. What are we on today? Just Gold Rush. Tournament Gold Rush. Okay. No wonder. Kipchak's actually being sent from one castle to rally in the other, just trying to hide just how much of them are massed up here from Barles. So Vinchester trying to achieve some value here, but he's going to have to get in range, pick off a monk and disengage before he can lose any of these Kipchaks to either conversion or tanking damage from the camels. And it looks like Vinchester's confident he can snipe all the monks, bleed Barles on the gold, really put the pressure on with having to get this castle down to get, you know, enough gold to take him late game. And it looks like Barles is having to evacuate the vills, trying to go for another stables here, but it's actually pretty dangerous considering. And now Vinchester's just going to castle drop Barles once again. And this is more the castle I thought he was going to go with initially, because he didn't have to muck around securing that high ground. But in saying that, Barles did have a bit of a unit mass to deal with him initially. It's just that with the double castle production, the Kipchaks kept streaming out there, so Barles wasn't quite able to defend against this many. Especially once he dropped 2 monks to not get any conversions. Mostly because of Vinchester's poking and prodding at his army more so than him trying to overextend or take any fights he shouldn't have. But this is really rough because it also potentially means this gold mine's not even secure, so Barles has really only got this to work with, which is not a lot of gold, only about 1500. fact, probably not even that much. And the relic gold in AoE2, notoriously quite slow compared to AoE4s, for instance. And the technology just wasn't there yet for AoE3 and AoE0. And I know they're newer games in AoE2, whatever. So Barles going to go with a really defensive castle here just to be able to try and secure all this gold and all this stone. And that's, you know, which is a main and only source of stone at the moment. Unless he can get all the way over here. And he's really got to try and, you know, keep all this secure. Although it doesn't look hard with the amount of wood. They're really keeping him safe. Even still, this castle, sort of a stopgap measure. And he's still going to have to try and get a mining camp over here somewhere so he can gather from this stone. So Barles trying to find holes in Vinchester's base, but he's not giving him much to work with here. Looking quite safe. There's really only this passage here that's not secure. Shravamsha not able to quite make it through there. I think the Kipchaks with their multi-attacks are actually good against Shravamshas. Like, I think this shield can only incur so much damage from single attacks, whereas I believe the Kipchaks actually are able to proc a second attack every, you know, volley because they've got two actual independent arrows. So our players hitting Imperial. Vinchester's looking really safe on the gold here, while Barles is having to make do with what he's got back at home here, which is not a lot at this point. He's even feeling a bit of pressure for space. He's going to have to probably start, you know, building houses out here, or just cutting through all this so he's got the space to put more houses and farms over here. Maybe add another town centre like he had over here initially, so it'll be up to 4, and he's still ahead on villages because Vinchester's only on the 2 town centres. So Barles trying to use his Shravamsha to snipe as many of those Trebs as he can and just slow down the siege push of his opponent. Loses a bunch of Shravamsha riders for his troubles though. So Vinchester's army size overall is really starting to creep ahead of his opponents. But here Barles has potentially found a gap. So he's going to add a couple of Shravamsha riders from that stables and try and go for a push. It's Vinchester making it extremely difficult to get any gold out of the center of the map here. So his opponent is looking very starved for gold and even starting to sweat a little bit in terms of his stone. Especially with that trebuchet wearing away at his castle. Smart of Vinchester to catch that he'd cut through here, and so he's walled that bit off. Having to try and continue to keep his opponent out with the walling. Also finding a villager or two in Barles' base to snipe. A pair of trebuchets attacking pretty much unanswered here. There's not really any reverse trebuchet fire from Barles, and I thought, yeah, he does have a treb sitting back. Just keeping it safe though, because, you know, the Kipchaks with their range, as many attacks as they've got, quite hard to keep Treb alive with this many of them in there. It's not looking good for Barles. Just going to find a weak point into Vinchester's base here. Shravamsha being cleaned up by the Kipchaks there. Oh, that's what it is. Because of the quick regeneration on the shield, which with Shravamsha, with only a single ranged unit or a single attack ranged unit attacking them, they actually end up regenerating through a good portion of the damage being dealt to them, because that shield will breach at like another 4 or 5 or whatever, and say you're only doing 8 damage, more than half of it gets neglected every attack, because every attack the Shravamsha is just recharging through it. Looks like Barles is a little bit forced here. He's lost the town centre. He'll try and go for a snipe on those trebs. Just trying to muster up enough Trevanch that he can actually take a good fight and really turn this push around. Vinchester right now. It's a massive army over his opponent. Barles still actually in the lead with eco population. But this little push outside of his opponent's base sort of comes to a halt while Barles is having to try and commit to another one over here on the far side of the map. Hampshire stringing out of multiple stables here, trying to get a nice surround on the Kipchak. So Vinchester ultimately going to try and kite through a nice passage, nice tight area, make it very difficult for his opponent to actually get a good melee attack surround, deal cost-effective damage to that range ball. I'll see if he's starting to add monks once again, but given how starved he is for gold, I'm not so sure if he's going to be able to do that too often. He's going to be very careful with the monk. Use them pretty much purely as a healer rather than a converter. It's going to be hard to resist the temptation. But Barles has found a couple of gaps here in the wood line. Either that or he's cut his way through. Now Vinchester forced to have to surrender a lot of his economy. A lot of villages to go idle there. So we got nearly 20 villages garrisoned up there. When you already have a smaller eco size, quite tough on you. Sometimes be one of the deciding factors here. And Barles is actually really pulling ahead in score. In spite of all of Vinchester's aggression and the fact that he's cut his opponent off from the gold here. Vinchester's forced to have to add camel riders. It's actually neglected to pull everything here. Looks like with the reinforcements, he should be able to clean that up. Barles has a huge army of Travamsha riders now, so all these Kipchaks have been garrisoned. A lot of these villages are going to have to hightail it out of here as well. Vinchester ultimately able to clean up all those Travamsha riders. Vinchester trying to cut as best he can, just get as much damage onto this army as possible. You've got to be constant with it in order to actually hit through the energy shield. Sorry, I keep calling it energy shield, it's not Path of Exile now, is it? Use of some melee here as well, might be nice. Getting some extra damage off and splitting up the opponent's focus. Kipchak's able to get a lot more damage off. Because there is a front line that the Travamsha are having to deal with, so they're not so easily kited back in and out of the fight to actually accrue a lot of value. But even still, with that shield regenerating as fast as it is, Vinchester needs to confirm kills, or he's not getting much value at all out of this. So Barles, a couple more trebs this time. The smaller Kipchak wall in their face. The number of them as well might be a little bit easier for these to get enough shots off to tear down one of Vinchester's castles. Barles is actually still massing up stables units over there. Not so tempted to use the stables there on the right. Still maintaining a bit of a villager lead over Vinchester now, who still seems to only be on 2 villages. Saying that, I don't think Barles' villager production has been constant. Barles actually taking a big fight there, but all these Kipchaks stacked up very tight. But a castle of Vinchester is being taken out by Barles. His Kipchak count is nowhere near what it was. How many units is Barles hiding up here? They only got 4 Shravamsha riders, but maybe he's just waiting for his opponent to have to go gather the wood from over here, just a little bit further outside of range of the castle. This meaning that you can pick off a little bit more in the way of villagers. On top of that, these players quite busy in the center of the map now. Barles having a pretty healthy score lead over Vinchester at the moment. He's up to 140 bills. I think he'll pretty much be looking at cutting production of them from now on. Just focusing on his army size, considering he's only got 60 spare population to work with. Once you factor in you want to lock up 140 with eco, and Vinchester might even be comfortable sitting on about 130. Or would be if he wasn't trailing in score and seemingly trailing on army size as well. Considering Barles is actually pretty much pop capped at the moment. And GG. Barles takes game number 2, and this time a castle drop not so effective. In fact, Vinchester having to commit to 3 castles and still not quite able to get any serious damage done from late castle onwards there. Barles playing extremely well off the back foot with a limited amount of gold to work with. And the clock was really ticking to try and get access to this gold mine up here. Oh, he came around this side as well, and that did help a lot too. But yeah, well played. And I guess we'll go to game number 3.